Hey everyone, it's DFS Fast Picks. We're going to take a quick look at the 3-game afternoon slate. I know the games are a little weird here on Groundhog Day, which is also Super Bowl Sunday, and maybe not as many people are going to be watching or playing, but that actually gives you maybe potential good reason to play a small slate like this, because there could be some just casual football fans who want to get in and play some NBA action or whatever. So let's take a look at these 3 games real quick. And I hope you guys have a fun Super Bowl Sunday and Groundhog Day. All right, so Phoenix at Milwaukee. Obviously, Milwaukee's one of the best teams in the league. They do have a tendency to blow out other teams and have done it a lot this year, almost to the point where it's somewhat predictable. Let's take a look at some Vegas odds real quick, actually, to get an idea for... just get an idea for the spreads in some of these games. Actually, looks like Milwaukee's favored by 12 in this particular contest. So, this is potentially a game stack if you think that guys like Booker and Bledsoe can shoot the ball really well and can keep it into a game. So, if you were to go to a game stack, you'd want to put them in a lineup along with Giannis. Is Giannis going to play? It says he's questionable. He left Friday's game with what seemed to be hamstring soreness. It's possible he'll miss Sunday's game. Okay. Well, if he misses the game, this definitely has game stack potential, because you'd want to roll with Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe and Ilyasova. Even though these prices are inflated, I think they're inflated because they're anticipating Giannis being out. So Ilyasova at 5K seems like a really high price tag, but in games where Giannis hasn't played this year, like we'll take a look when he's getting Giannis has been playing in most of the games recently, so it's not going to be reflected in any of these game logs in the last 10 games. But in games where Giannis hasn't played, Ilyasova has put up plenty of 30 to 40 point fantasy games where he's playing 30 plus minutes. So you could roll with Middleton, Bledsoe, and Ilyasova, and then run it back with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and then potentially Ricky Rubio or something like that. Rubio has a Q tag. He's been playing through ankle soreness. He definitely hasn't been putting up the numbers recently as he was earlier in the year when his price tag was up around 7K. It could be for a couple different reasons. He's had this ankle thing going on. Also could be DeAndre Ayton came back in the mix and he's taking a lot more shot volume, where Ricky, not a good shooter, but was taking a higher shot volume earlier in the year. So that's something to consider when thinking about rostering him. So that Q tag and the fact that his numbers haven't looked as good recently makes me a little leery to think that he has too much upside. So Kelly Oubre, though, on the other hand, still only at 6.4. This could be an awesome spot for Kelly Oubre if Giannis is out. And obviously Milwaukee's still an excellent team without Giannis and is still a favorite in this matchup. But needless to say, Oubre's all over the court. He's playing plenty of minutes. He gets a lot of peripherals in the point of especially rebounds, but he'll also get steals and stuff. And then he takes a decent volume of shots in the mid to upper teens. So you can see that's reflected in some of these 40-plus point fantasy scores. So I think he should be in a decent spot, although the defensive matchup is better than most that he'll face. So that's about it for that. So keep an eye on Giannis news if it comes out late, or Ricky Rubio, and then, definitely an interesting game to turn to. New Orleans-Houston, another potential high-scoring barn burner. Out of these 2 games, in a nutshell, I would probably pick Houston-New Orleans as a better game to stack, simply because there's much worse defense on both sides of the ball in this game. Harden's at 11-2, Westbrook at 10-2. Harden, I think, did finally have a bounce-back game. He was kind of not taking the shot volume he had in the previous 3 games for whatever reason. I think he was kind of either shooting poorly and throughout the game, and then decided to shut it down and turn it over to Westbrook, because his numbers were just through the roof in terms of shot attempts and stuff. And if we take a look at his shot attempts, they've still been in the mid to high 20s, so that's pretty crazy. A lot of those come at the rim, though. He's He's much more of a penetrator and fast break kind of guy than Harden, whereas Harden does his step back three stuff. So also with Eric Gordon back in the mix, he's taking more shots. So that probably takes a little bit away from Harden's 3-point attempts. Because I definitely think going into the playoffs, they're going to need someone like Eric Gordon to be playing well and shooting the ball well in order for them to have some success. So I'm sure Harden has been trying to maybe get Gordon more involved in the offense. Capella's still out for Houston, so that should mean more minutes for like Hartenstein. I think maybe Capella came back for a game or something, but let's see. Is Hartenstein in the mix here? He is. 3K minimum. In games where Capella's out, like here against Minnesota, he played 26 minutes, had a monster game. Played 34 last time versus New Orleans. So Capella wasn't in for that game, and he had 39.25 fantasy points. Although I think this was a game where Harden and some other guys were out, so he was much, much more involved in the offense in terms of usage and stuff. But with Harden and Westbrook in the mix here, I don't know how much he'll be involved in the offense. Also thinking about it from a defensive standpoint, who in the heck is going to guard Zion Williamson? PJ Tucker? I think PJ Tucker's in for maybe a rude awakening with how athletic Zion is. At 7-7, his price tag is starting to creep up there. I knew this would happen. But the thing is I think they're probably trying to cap him at like high 20s to around 30 minutes. I don't think they're looking to just wear him out or anything. New Orleans has no shot of making the playoffs, so it's not as if they need to run him out there 36 to 38 minutes a game or anything. He's still coming back off the injury. They want to be cautious, so if he's only getting 30 minutes in a game, it's really hard for me to see him get a lot of upside at 7-7. So, and plus that takes away some potential upside for some other guys in the game. However, Brandon Ingram should still be playing big minutes. He didn't versus Memphis. I don't know if that was a matchup thing or what was going on, but he should still be getting mid-30s minutes in most matchups. And his price has dropped down because of this recent low-minute game and then a few others where he just didn't produce like normal. But he was also against some good defenses and slow-paced teams. Cleveland plays at a slower pace. Boston is a good defensive team, and Denver definitely plays at a slow pace. Even though 106-113 seems like kind of an average NBA score, that's a really low score for this New Orleans team. They really push the envelope, and teams that let them and want to get in a track meet, like the Clippers here, you can see these 130-plus point for both team types of scores. He can have these big upside games where he has 50, 60 fantasy points. So I think with his upside in tournaments today, even though Zion is in the mix now and takes some usage away from him, as well as Alonzo, who's shooting better and taking a lot more shot attempts, I still think he's definitely in play in this matchup. And then looking down the line, someone like Josh Hart at 3.8 off the bench is pretty cheap. JJ Redick at 3.7 off the bench is pretty cheap. This is a pretty interesting game, pretty stackable. When the pace is much more up-tempo and there's a lot more potential like pushing the ball up the court after a missed shot and stuff like that, I tend to favor Westbrook in matchups like that. So I think Westbrook is definitely going to be in my lineups today. And then you can, grab some New Orleans guys and, do what you want with this game. But this should be on paper a high scoring affair. The last game in this 3-game slate, Toronto-Chicago, should be kind of the opposite. Probably not going to be very high scoring. Based on these two games and with someone like Giannis being out and Capella being out and all the things going on, I doubt you would want to stack this game. Be my guest if you want to be contrarian, but this shouldn't be a very high scoring game fantasy-wise, and especially considering Chicago kind of rotates a lot of guys through that play mid-20s minutes. Toronto, most of the guys on Toronto are healthy. There's not a lot of O-tags. You have a lot of O-tags still here for Chicago, but so it looks like Norman Powell is out. Oh, okay, so we actually have I'll take that back. We have quite a few O-tags going around. Well, Chris Dunn, Carter, and Markkanen for Chicago out, as well as Porter. He's been out all year. Valentine questionable, but he's probable. He'll play. Denzel Valentine at 3.6 in my mind is probably too cheap. So if you're looking for a value play from this game, I think you could look at someone like Denzel Valentine. He could potentially get a lot of run in junk play, and he's definitely productive. Obviously, Zach LaVine is the biggest production player on this team, but it's so hard for him to create all by himself to get there. He needs like Markkanen and Dunn to be, and even Wendell Carter Jr. to be healthy so that the defenses can't just surround him and, zone in on him in order for him to really have a big upside game at that price. Siakam is definitely in one of the best spots on the court versus Chicago, who's really weak in the interior with all these guys out. Serge Ibaka at 6'2" also stands out to me. Thad Young is playing big minutes in place of Markkanen, so you can see 30-plus minutes in all of these games. But he's not much of an offensive threat, so there's not much upside there. Satoransky has just been playing terrible. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he's legit not very good. But at 4.5... that starts to become somewhat viable, but as I said before, with these other two games before, I don't know that I want to prioritize anything from any of these games. But let's try to put together a lineup based on what we've been looking at before. So we have Bledsoe and Ilyasova for Milwaukee. We have Lonzo and Ingram and Josh Hart for New Orleans, Westbrook for Houston, and then a one-off Luke Cornett. This is reasonable. Got some decent upside, so... hope you guys have fun on Super Bowl Sunday. Good luck and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.